Hey there, brothers and sisters. So glad to be here with you today. I just wanted to share something with you guys that I learned from my interview. The leadership interview that I did was with a man named Dave Benefield, and he is the director of a program, a preteen camp called Over the Edge. And I learned a lot from Dave over the years, knowing him, and I learned a lot during this interview. And I just hope that as I walk through this presentation, that there would be stuff that's beneficial for you. I hope that it inspires you and encourages you just to continue being the leaders that God has called us to be. Let me go ahead and share my screen. So again, this is leadership lessons. And there were just so many lessons that I did learn in this process that I wanted to share with you guys. My interview with Dave Benefield. So Dave Benefield has been in ministry for 30 plus years. He is the founder of Over the Edge preteen camp. It's a nonprofit camp designed for preteens and has been around since 2001. When I asked Dave, kind of what's inspired him, what led him to do this, the main thing was that many years ago he went to camp, took a group of kids to camp, and during that he just realized that there was something missing. He wasn't. It was not a bad thing, not a bad experience, but there was just this sense of something missing. And so Dave began to pray about this, and eventually, after much prayer and just brainstorming, Over the Edge became a reality. And it actually started, Piney Woods had an open week, and that's where it started. And Dave said that he has learned so much over the years about being in leadership, which is another reason that I really wanted to be able to sit with him and interview him. I really wish I could share the whole thing with you guys. There were just so much rich knowledge in there, and just lessons that we can not only learn but apply daily. And whenever I was talking to David, just a big blessing to be able just to pick his brain and get some very practical lessons from him. So when I asked Dave, the main things, what is a leader and what traits do they have? Of course, this was a rapid fire response back and forth with me and Dave. And he was, the thing that stuck out the most, especially because of the book that we read this semester, was that you must have a servant heart. That is something that Dave was big about. He said you have to not only enjoy serving, but just desire to serve others in everything that you do, working hard and sacrificing. And in ministry, brothers and sisters, sometimes we understand that sacrificing, but for Dave, it's even a deeper level of understanding for him, that he understands that he sacrifices himself completely for the work of the kingdom. And of course, not in everything, but that's the goal. That's his aim. And to lead by example and have a hunger for growth, consistency, persistence, and boldness and vision. The vision was a big one. I didn't quite understand what Dave was telling me in the interview. It wasn't until I'm going over the notes and actually bought a small recorder to go back so that I could play the conversations over and over and not miss anything. And Dave spoke about vision on such a grand scheme that it was really amazing to me, and helped me, I believe, to understand that a lot of times the vision that we have is bigger than us, and that's okay, because we in no way, shape, or form can imagine the vision that God has for us sometimes. I call this piece here living lessons. These are things that were happening, right, that I'm doing now, that since the interview with Dave, that I put into practice. When I interviewed Dave, I said earlier, I've known him for a long time. There was just so much for me to know. But during that interview, the questions that I asked were things, of course, that I wanted to know, but some of it was stuff that I needed to know for situations that I'm facing now in ministry and in the different things that I'm involved with. And I know that in the future, I will face some things, and I'll be able to look back at this experience and just be like, oh, I saw how Dave handled that. Dave is a man of God, a leader who I trust with some of those decisions that he has made, and kind of just learning from him and being able to avoid some of the pitfalls that he might have had to go through. When I asked Dave how he leads when dealing with different personalities, that's something big for me with my day-to-day job. He told me you must bring a certain positivity into every room you enter and try to see the whole situation before acting. And that's something that I have definitely been putting into practice since the interview. It's something that I've always tried to do, but I'm even more intentional about it now. So living lesson 2, the lessons that I learned from Dave are very practical for leadership positions. I'm in leadership in various different ministries as well as my 9-to-5 job. I have somewhat an authority over the people that work here with me, and I try to always be the best leader that I can be for my team. See, so these are things that the things that I asked, some of the questions that I asked them because I needed to know them so that I could in turn be a better leader, be a better boss, and really lead by example, lead my men appropriately. I learned how to work through some conflicts on a more mature level, as well as to take a step back and not make that quick decision without properly examining the situation. Being the leader of a group of strong men is not always easy. And Dave helped me to realize it doesn't have to be a contest. I learned how to bring positive energy into every situation, even when there has to be hard conversations. And in one of the areas that I'm blessed to work in is a prison ministry area. Super blessed to be able to do that, to work with some of these other men from around town and even around our nation, and just kicking back and forth ideas. And sometimes we can try to be the bigger man, right? And not the bigger man as we should to back down, but sometimes we want to be the tougher guy, I guess I would say. And sometimes our pride gets in the way. And so this interview helped me again to self-evaluate and understand, am I being a good leader? Am I being the leader that God has called me to be? You see, for most leaders, especially of worldly jobs, there's some things. I like to listen to a podcast by Dave Ramsey called Entree Leadership. Now, I do apply those things with Christian values and apply them to my life for what I do, because our life in ministry is not about financial gain, but about gain for the kingdom. And so I always try to revert that back to those standards and those things. But I do learn so much. I learn a lot. And so for me, this was a big opportunity for me to not only improve as a leader, but also as a man of God. Lead by example. That is where I will leave you guys today. Lead by example. I believe that the biggest lesson I learned is to always lead by example. For me, the example I follow is Christ. So as I'm leading people in different areas, I pray I would be given the strength and discipline to lead by that example. If you didn't hear anything, if this was not interesting to you, if it was in one ear and out the other, please hear lead by example. And for all of you, I hope, as well as for me, that example is Christ. And I believe that as long as we put Christ at the forefront of not only everything that we do, but every decision that we have to make as leaders in this world, that we would not be led astray. Thank you again for your time. I appreciate it, and God bless you.